All right, let's talk about something I think we all feel. Ever get that sense you're just stuck in a loop, facing the same old problems day in and day out? Well, today, we're going to dig into a really powerful idea. What if the key to breaking that cycle isn't some huge, massive change, but actually a really small shift in how we handle life's challenges?
I mean, does life sometimes feel just like this? Like we're all in some frantic, blindfolded race with no idea where we're going? There's actually a term for this feeling, the blind race of modernization. And it's that nagging sense that our super busy, complex world is just piling on more problems than it's solving? And it just leaves us feeling totally lost and overwhelmed.
So here we are in this mad race, right? We're fueled by what we want, by this constant need to compete, and what happens? We end up making our already tough lives even more complicated. And the wildest part is, we don't even mean to do it. It just happens.
So, okay, what's the escape hatch? How do we get out of this race? Well, here's the thing. It's not about grinding harder or making some big dramatic gesture. The real solution is surprisingly simple. It's something all of us can do. It's a small but incredibly powerful shift in our own behavior. And that shift all starts with understanding two very, very different ways of acting.
And that brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today. It's this subtle but huge difference between reacting and responding. Now, on the surface, they might seem kind of the same, right? But trust me, they lead to completely different outcomes.
Okay, first up, reacting. Let's get a picture of this. Imagine you're driving, and someone just cuts you off. That immediate flash of anger? That urge to just lay on the horn or yell something out the window? That's a reaction. It's a total gut-level, automatic thing that comes from our subconscious mind, that old fight or flight part of our brain. And let's be honest, it almost never makes things better. But then, on the flip side, you've got a response. And a response is totally different. It's thoughtful, it's wise, it comes from our conscious thinking mind. So instead of honking at that driver, a response might be to just take a deep breath, maybe slow down a bit, and give them some space. See the difference? The whole goal of a response is to actually solve the problem, not just add more chaos to it.
So let's just break this down side by side. It's like we have two completely different paths to take. On one side, you've got reaction. It's subconscious, it's automatic, and it's totally fixated on the problem itself, which, you guessed it, just creates more chaos. But on the other side, you have the response. That's conscious, it's thoughtful, and its target is the solution. This is the shift we're talking about. This is what takes us from confusion to clarity.
So you might be wondering, where do these automatic reactions even come from? Well, they're not random. The truth is, we actually build them ourselves. It's like brick by brick, with every single action we take.
So how does that happen? How do these reactions get so baked in? It's actually a pretty simple four-step process. First, you just repeat an action over and over again. Then, after a while, it starts to feel like second nature, right? From there, it gets deeply ingrained into our subconscious mind. And finally, boom, it just erupts automatically whenever a similar situation pops up. No effort, no thought required. And that right there is how a reaction is born.
And the result of these knee-jerk reactions? Yeah, they're almost never good. We get totally trapped in this downward spiral of negativity. We're talking fear, anxiety, irritation, all of it. We end up shouting, criticizing, blaming other people. We can only think about the worst possible outcomes. This is what keeps us stuck running in that blinded folded race, just feeling hopeless and getting absolutely nowhere.
To really make this idea click, there's this incredible old story, a parable about muddy water. It sounds really simple, but it has such a profound lesson, especially for our crazy modern lives.
Okay, so the story goes like this. Lord Buddha felt thirsty, so he asked one of his disciples to go get him some water from a nearby lake. But just as the disciple gets there, a big bullock cart rumbles right through the water, and poof, it just stirs up all the mud from the bottom, making the water completely murky and gross. So what does this first disciple do? He sees the problem, the muddy water, and immediately turns around and goes back empty-handed. He tells Buddha the water's dirty, we can't drink it. He reacted. He saw the obstacle and just gave up, declaring the whole thing impossible. So a little while later, Buddha asks another disciple to give it a shot. And this second disciple, he goes to the exact same lake, sees the exact same muddy water, but he does something completely different. He doesn't turn back, he doesn't try to stir it or filter it, he just sits down on the shore and waits. And after some time passes, he comes back with a pot filled with crystal clear water. Buddha is of course pretty surprised and asks him, "What did you do to clean it?" And the disciple's answer was so simple. He just said, "I did nothing, sir.
I just waited for a while. The mud settled all by itself, and then I could easily collect the clean water.
And right there, that's the whole point. Our minds, they're just like that lake. When life's problems come crashing through, they stir everything up, and our thoughts become muddy and chaotic. If we react right away, in that moment of chaos, we just make things worse. But if we can just learn to wait, to just pause, those perturbations of life, as the story calls them, they'll start to settle down all on their own.
So this is way more than just a nice little story, right? It's a real practical skill that every single one of us can learn. It's what you could call the art of the pause, that crucial moment where we choose to respond instead of just react.
But it's super important to remember, mastering this isn't about some one-time heroic effort. That's not how it works. Real, lasting change doesn't happen overnight. It comes from taking small, steady, positive steps. It's all about slowly and gradually building a new habit, the habit of a thoughtful response.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we put it into practice? Well, here's a pretty clear roadmap. Step 1, you have to learn to catch that initial urge to react, that first flash of anger or fear. Just notice it. Step 2, give yourself the gift of time. Seriously, don't rush into anything. Just sit with the problem for a bit and try to really understand it. And finally, you have to consciously shift your focus, move it away from just the problem and start looking for the solutions, for the possibilities. And that really brings us to the main takeaway here. The real power in this idea isn't just understanding it, it's applying it. So I want to leave you with a question to really think about. What is one situation in your life, right now, that could be completely transformed if you just chose to respond thoughtfully instead of immediately reacting?